we've done enough hate watching on Korra, so now it's time to give Aang the spotlight by glazing him.
I think that'll have to wait.
Hello? Zuko here. I finally have you. But I can't get you home because of this blizzard. There's always something. Not that you would understand. You're like my sister. Everything always came easy to her. She's a firebending prodigy, and everyone adores her. My father says she was born lucky. He says I was lucky to be born.
And what better arc to cover than the winter solstice? Yeah, that's right, the arc where this Maharaga-looking creature was kidnapping people to his goon cave. And the reason why Heibai could even enter the human world was because the winter solstice was growing near, and that causes the line between the spirit world and human world to blur, which lets this boogeyman sneak in, but thanks to Korra, he can kidnap as many waterbenders as he desires now.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
And Heibai is OP to the point where he doesn't even acknowledge Aang. Bro just flipped him off, then went back to vandalizing the village.
You can't keep getting away with it!
So Sokka decided to back the beef by throwing his trusty boomerang, but then Heibai just snatches bro like he's a football and dashes him back to the forest. And I really do feel for Sokka. Sometimes he seems useless because he's only good at backbending, but he's just too likable. Sokka is like Usopp, but if Usopp was a good character. So Aang tries to retrieve his day one, but gets hit so hard that he goes to another dimension. But this is a blessing in disguise, because now that Aang is in the spirit world, Avatar Roku's dragon can kidnap him and fly Aang 200 miles per hour into the ceiling. Oh yeah, and he can also help Aang find a way to speak with Roku. But the catch is that he can only speak to Roku by traveling to the Crescent Island during the winter solstice. And since it was ending in a day, Aang had to choose between Roku saving Sokka or a dinner with Jay-Z. Disclaimer, I'm pretty sure it's called Crescent Island, but in the event I'm wrong, I made this video over a long period of time, so allow the mistakes. Whilst all of this was happening, Uncle Iroh got kidnapped during a goon maxing session in the local swamp. So as he was on his way to Guantanamo Bay, he actually saw Aang getting kidnapped by Roku's dragon, because he just chill like that when it comes to the spirits. And as Zuko prepares to slide back for Aang, he sees Appa in the distance, so just like Aang, he too must make a decision on whether to deride Aang or save Iroh. Parallels bro, parallels. Aang really lost his humanity while Zuko gained his. Oh shit, I'm making a video on Avatar, not Hunter x Hunter. Wrong script. Where were we? Ah, yes. Aang actually manages to use Talk no Jutsu on Maharaga to turn him back into Panda-san, so that all the children in his basement could become free, including Sokka. I bet you 500 schmeckles Korra could never do that. Maharaga would still be sliming children to this day if she was in Aang's situation. But yeah, Aang and Zuko both decided to save their friends, so now the gang could head to Crescent Island. And while Zuko was meat riding Team Avatar, Commander Zhao was gatekeeping the Fire Nation from everyone. Apparently everyone had to pay some tariffs to get past. Also, didn't Zhao get sent to the gulag for eternity, and Korra came across bro tweaking in real time?
I am Zhao the Conqueror. I am the Moon Slayer. I will capture the Avatar. I am Zhao the Conqueror. I am the Moon Slayer. I will capture the Avatar.
I'm covering that arc in this video, I'm pretty sure, but don't quote me on it. I have schizophrenia. Still though, Zhao may be a top 1 detestable character in the series, but wandering the gulag for decades is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But for now, the gang doesn't want to pay them tariffs, so Upper 360s his way through the borders, and just like our White King phase adapt, he never faked a trick shot. Sokka then proceeds to take his second L and almost die to fall damage, but it's okay, even LeBron had his bad days. So after Aang kicks through a meteor, he manages to get to the Crescent Island temple, only to find a bunch of corrupt monks, except for this one guy who helped Team Avatar find Roku. And now it's time for Sokka to redeem himself, because you need 5 firebenders to open the sealed gate, but only one of them didn't sell out, so Sokka pulled a 200 IQ move and cooked up some bombs to act as fake firebending to trigger the seal open. Unfortunately, Sokka did not beat the allegations because that idea flopped, until it didn't, because his sister provided provided a Hall of Fame assist and advised they could use the distraction from the explosion sound and the scorch marks to make it seem like Sokka's plan wasn't fraudulent. And just as Sokka was about to break his 3-for-3 fumble, Zuko almost sabotaged them, but Aang remembers that in life there are 3 certainties: death, taxes, and in a one-on-one with Zuko, always bet on Aang. I mean, just look at these clips. Damn, did bro really get floored by an air clone? If I had to deal with this BS every time I fought Aang, then I'd crash out too. But yeah, after Aang dashed Zuko down the stairs and quickly flew into the door after baiting the guards, he managed to speak with Roku. I bet Aang wished he didn't do all this nonsense to chat with Roku, because bro just learned he only gets 1 year to master all 4 elements, or else Fire Lord Ozai is gonna have a field day. This gotta be the equivalent to me getting monetized before somewhere else Senchi's gonna make me go bold. Me and Aang gotta pull off a borderline impossible, and Korra could never. But I guess Roku did take some accountability, because he knew Aang would die as he is now once he left the door to meet all those fire soldiers, so he decided to be a good big bro and take the controller so he can body that punk Commander Zhao and his goons by using some lava juju. And then Fire Lord Momo and Appa helped Team Avatar escape, and everyone lived happily ever after, except for that one monk. That sucks for bro. He literally did everything morally correct and now has to suffer the fate of cock and bull torture with the 4 other evil monks. But enough about that, let's cover the Northern Water Tribe saga so we can see Admiral Zhao's hate watch to completion. And we'll start with a deep analysis into Sokka's backbending saga. So after the gang pull up to Water 7, Sokka falls in love with the Moon Huzz, and it takes a while for him to bag her, but he gets there in the end. Bro really pulled up to a princess and asked if he wanted to do an activity with her, but he's trying. I can't say the same for myself, and I'm not gay or anything, but Sokka's sense of humor is so charming. No matter how many times he stumbles and literally falls, the Huzz just find it too funny. Except for that one time where bro tried acting a bit too romantic and carved a wooden fish so ugly that Yue ran away from the bridge crying. But for real though, getting married off at the tender age of 16 is rough. I wouldn't even be surprised if Yue ran across the world like Gran after hearing about Master Paku's negative 1000 aura backstory. But for the time being, she decides to give Sokka more mixed signals by smooching him on the bridge, revealing she's in a forced marriage and then running away. Seriously, what is up with Yue and that damn bridge? Okay, let's switch the focus to Zuko, and unfortunately all the content for book 1 Zuko just involves misery and despair because of Admiral Zhao. Fuck Zhao. All my homies hate Zhao. Keep watching this video to witness his downfall. Zhao may be hate watching Zuko, but we're hate watching him harder. How dare this guy interrupts music night? We were just about to see Zuko play the Sungi horn, and then he steals all of Zuko's nakama to add insult to injury. But this next part, although I hate to admit it, I kinda see where Zhao was coming from. While he was in the process of ruining Zuko's livelihood, he noticed these 2 swords that the Blue Spirit uses. And if you need a bit of a reminder, the Blue Spirit is Zuko, but he wears a mask so no one knows his identity. He had to use this get up to free Aang from Zhao's clutches because he's a pay-to-win merchant and we can't have no battle pass users stealing Zuko's ticket back into the Fire Nation. But now that Zhao knows who scammed him, he hires the pirates that Zuko also slimed previously to blow up the Going Merry. Zuko and Chunkle Iroh use this to their advantage and pull off a 200 IQ strat, because if you're a first time viewer, then at this point it seems like Zuko got eliminated, but he's lurking. And at the same time, Chunkle Iroh pretends to take Zhao's offer to help with the Northern Water Tribe raid so that he and Zuko can capture the Avatar first. Not gonna lie, sometimes I sound like Aang. Do you hot mans agree? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, Aang and Katara get ready for their first day at waterbending school, but Master Paku is so sexist and misogynistic to the point where he won't teach girls self-defense. But let's not cancel Master Paku just yet, because I'm not gonna lie, if I had an arranged marriage with someone and they fled to the other side of the world just to get away from my green aura with flies, then I might just become sexist as well. But Aang gets a solution from our friend the backbender, and he decides to teach Katara in secret. But Master Pakku catches them in the act and expels them both. And Katara is gutted for this low-key, because in order to get Aang back to training, she had to apologize to Master Pakku when she didn't even do anything wrong. But she chose the way of a bear and decides to run the fade with someone she's severely outmatched against. And the older man really tried to duck the fade by nonchalantly walking past Katara and telling her to get back in the kitchen. But when bro got whipped in the back of the head, he couldn't let that slide. So he splashes her with a tsunami and encloses her in a circle that's slowly creeping in around them. But in order to escape, Katara directs a pathway open at Sokka. Pakku then creates an ice slide which Katara slides off of, and she freezes her toes so she doesn't fall from Pakku's incoming ice to water blast. And you know you're cooking when even the enemy lobbies are cheering for you. So Katara keeps up the momentum by throwing hands, but this just gets her first class ticket into the lake. It's really crazy how hard this fight was cooking, and we're not even on the main event just yet. Katara started pressuring Pakku with these ice slices. Even bro was shocked by this witch up. Look at that face. Katara then tries burying Pakku in them frozen pots behind him, but they just turn into dust, and he's done playing around, so he starts surfing the ice and riding the waves that Katara throws at him, and finishes her off by trapping her in ice spikes. But after he picks up Katara's necklace, he gets a Vietnam flashback to when he made this necklace for the Southern Water Tribe. Fine shite after clutching the 20v1, and how he got negative 1000 aura, so he gave in and let Katara join the class. Still though, it's pretty crazy getting pushed by a self-taught teenager who was going off of one water scroll. That's pretty embarrassing. At the moment, Katara is already top 1 in the class, and Aang is taking inspiration from Mia and Nagi to become the next big failed lazy genius. And Sokka is abusing the flying monster to pick up the chicks. As he and Yue are cruising in the air, they notice the snow is getting mixed with smoke, which can only mean one thing: Commander Zhao is beginning the raid. So in order to bag Princess Yue by any means necessary, Sokka gets drafted into the infiltration team, but he's got to team up with Yue's dumbass fiance Chat. And it sucks that Sokka got kicked off the team, especially after all the information he gathered on the Fire Nation. But him beating on Chat because he said he likes to goon to Yue was a valid crash out. I do love how stupid Chad is. The way he mispronounces Admiral Zhao's name to Admiral Cho is so tough. We will be calling him Cho for the rest of the video. So Aang's got a lot to prove here. Originally, he wasn't able to protect his nation from the Fire Nation because he got locked away in an iceberg for 100 years after running away, which I emphasize with since he was only 12. But now he has a second chance to protect the Northern Water Tribe, and even though he's still 12, he's locked in now. So at the moment, the Fire Nation were flinging their shit at Water 7 from this one ship, and Aang and Appa needed to retaliate, so after skillfully using the opponent's attacks against themselves to destroy the ship along with the help of the waterbenders, which took them half of the episode to do so, mind you, they got welcome to the sight of a whole fleet being sent their way. But for real though, why is the Northern Water Tribe's manpower and weaponry so ass? At the moment, this battle is the equivalent of a coughing baby fighting off a hydrogen bomb. Bear in mind, the Northern Water Tribe have home advantage and the Avatar on their side, but the waterbenders do get more powerful with the moon, and it just happened to be a full moon, so I think I should say a Sigma Wolf joke. Yeah, but I've got nothing, and Aang knows everyone's cooked, so he's gonna try and contact the spirits to morph into a giant iguana and body the firebenders. So Yue takes him and Katara to the closest place to the spirits in the North Pole, and it even has grass in this climate, so it's gotta be legit. Luckily, it wasn't that hard to get into the spirit world after the host stopped yapping, because the black and white fish morphed into yin and yang, allowing Aang to enter. Okay, Zuko time. Now that it's dark outside, Zuko sneaks off a warship to try and find a way into the Northern Water Tribe. After a heartbreaking departure from Iroh, I could feel a tear running down my leg when Iroh said he thinks of Zuko as his second son. Bro is truly top 5 old people. So Zuko found this minuscule life-threatening crack that some turtles, eels were using, and starts cave diving to breach the Northern Water Tribe, and after a minor inconvenience of drowning to death due to an ice blockage, he escapes to be met with Katara, who's protecting Aang's body as he's astral projecting. And look who just clawed his way through that 1.5mm crack, Prince Taco, and he's ready to scrap. So at the moment, he's using his usual firebending, but Katara's now able to match him and then some, to the point where Zuko's getting floored. So at this point, you can see Katara's learned a new trick, but little does she know she's mastered the whole instruction manual. And Katara's too funny sometimes, because when Prince Taco gets engulfed in a bowl of ice, that grin she gave bro was priceless. But Zuko wasn't gonna let that slide. So after calling her a peasant, he explodes the ice and he knows Katara's found a master. He just hasn't gathered solid evidence yet. So Zuko was onto something here, with pressuring Katara in close range, and might have been able to cook, but he got too greedy and grabbed Aang mid-scrap, so Katara takes advantage and shoots Zuko into a wall of ice to stop him from bending. We really need to give some praise to Katara here. Like, yeah, she did have home advantage, and it was a full moon, but she fully loaded Zuko after a couple days of training. And comparing this to episode 1 where she couldn't even water whip yet, that deserves recognition. A rare Katara W, a true prodigy. However, she's still naive, because when it was morning time, Zuko broke free, gave Katara a concussion from a surprise attack, and spit a cold one-liner.
You rise with the moon. I rise with the sun.
So the episode ends with Zhao's foot soldiers reaching the Northern Water Tribe in daylight, and Zuko continued to aura farm by trudging through a blizzard carrying Aang.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Side note, Zuko's gotta be top 5 characters with the worst luck ever, but he still somehow manages to get the job done, kind of, when his back is slammed against the wall. What a goat. So the gang set out to search for Aang and leave Momo behind in case Aang comes back, but realistically, what is Momo gonna do if Aang returns?
Come on, guys, we're all on the same side.
My bad, Momo. I didn't know you were chill like that. And currently, the Gunagtar was getting baited by Sun Wukong to chase some balls in the spirit world so that his meditation didn't get interrupted. But when Aang climbs a tree and grasps onto the balls, the branch shrinks, causing him to fall into the pond. This is where he stares into the water's reflection, and Uncle Roku explains to Aang that if he's gonna find the ocean and moon spirits, he's gonna need to have a chat with Ko the Face Stealer, because they crossed into the mortal world ages ago, and Ko is the only one who's old enough to remember. So Aang locks in and starts mugging Ko. The respect I have at him for not shitting himself during this conversation is immense. I guess being a monk pays off sometimes, but at the end of the day, we need to address how dangerous Ko the Face Stealer is, because he's literally stolen the face of a previous avatar. I'm pretty sure Ko also hijacked Zuko's mom's face as well, but yeah, a past avatar tried to run the fade with Ko because he stole his girlfriend's face and straight up lost. Bear in mind, Korra has released this fiend into the mortal world. Okay, moving on. Aang figures out the koi fish or the moon and ocean spirits, and that fuck-ass Admiral Cho plans to slime the moon spirit. But whilst all this is happening, ice starts cracking in the real world, causing Zuko to quickly find shelter, and at the moment he's backed against another wall with no way out. And Zuko gives his iconic monologue on how he has had to struggle for everything, and it's made him strong.
I don't need luck, though. I don't want it. I've always had to struggle and fight, and that's made me strong. It's made me who I am.
He's just like me for real. I'm literally Zuko. And just to prove that Zuko was telling the truth, Aang's spirit flies back into his body and acts as a beacon to Sokka and his search team. So then they bully the bush camping Zuko. And this was all thanks to Maharaga carrying Aang back into the mortal realm. Shout out to this Lovecraftian horror for real. He even beefed with Sun Wukong for bad mouthing his glorious Gunagtar. So after Zuko gets embarrassed by Katara again, oof, that's rough, buddy. The gang heads over to the oasis to prevent Admiral Cho from destroying an entire culture. In the meantime, Dad tries to clothesline him but gets sent into the ocean. Thank you for your service, bro Chacho. And Master Paku is currently demolishing a whole army. Bro is genuinely the only useful Northern Water Tribe member. I have no idea how this tribe has survived so long. But it doesn't matter if Paku is holding down the fort, because no one can do water bending anymore. And to make things worse, all the firebenders are stronger now, because it's a blood moon now thanks to Cho putting the moon spirit in a body bag. And this is the first time in the show where we see Uncle Iroh lose his temper and actually throw hands. And considering how much he's let slide in book 1, you can tell that kidnapping the fucking moon must be really serious. If it's got calm and collected Chunkle Iroh all worked up, the aura was really through the roof, but unfortunately that dumbass destroyed the balance of the world. So now the whole world is grey, but hope's not lost yet, because thanks to the ocean spirit, Aang is able to enter the Avatar state and turn into a giant iguana to destroy the fire army. They literally couldn't do a thing to Aang. When he wrapped up in that chaos juice, bro was... He had the Fire Nation ships running for their lives, but he was still slicing them off. But this doesn't change the fact that the moon got slimed. But there's also a solution to this. You see, Yui was born as a very weak child and didn't even cry at birth, which is bad. She was predicted to die very soon after birth by the healers, but when her family placed her in the water, the moon gave her strength, which in turn gave Yui anime hair and infinity. This is why she's called Yui. It probably means the moon. And she also started crying after she was placed in the water, so that's good. What's even worse, however, is that Yui clearly still has some moon left in her, because she still got Korra in her eyes, so we're gonna have to sacrifice her to save the planet. Mods, remove her soul from her body. On a real though, that's rough for Sokka, but at least he still bagged Suki. So before the moon returned, Zuko and Cho had a mod fight to determine who is the weakest bender in book 1, and just to make sure our hate watch was brought to succession, the chaos juices left Aang's body and engulfed Cho so that he could get dragged into the gulag for the foreseeable future. Damn, that arc took a long time to cover. Now that the siege is over, Master Paku's gonna go back to the Southern Water Tribe to help them out, but we all know the real reason is because he wants to bag Gran now that he's got her location. You can't fool me, I'm familiar with your game, you womanizer, and I'm proud of Aang. He really stepped up. Mission successful. So the season ends off with the Fire Lord unleashing that crazy cycle of a sister onto Zuko and Iroh, but that's a story for another day. So for now, like, subscribe and comment something, because this video took a lot of effort to make, and as always, see you all in the next video.